Hello, hello on this Friday, Sunrise Extra. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are departing from our normally
protests or COVID
related,
basically.
yeah,
that's all we ever talk about anymore.
Brenda and I said enough. Let's take a break and let's talk about something also prickly, because we were talking about mental health. We're talking about it's been a big story this week. Kim Kardashian coming out very publicly and speaking for the first time about her husband Kanye West's bipolar disorder and really what it's like living with somebody with a mental health issues such as he has. And you know, I mean, we've been seeing the headlines. Kanye is, you know, running for president, and he's been on the ballot in certain states, and he's had some very eyebrow-raising, you know, press conferences and then tweets that he's later deleted. And I just feel, you know, like I'm not a Kardashian follower per se, but I think her message is really powerful, and we kind of wanted to talk about it with you guys and what you think, and you know, what is kind of the role of the media in this time if someone is obviously going through something. You know, do you take a presidential bid and things like that seriously? I want to show you what she wrote first of all, and then we can talk about it.
It's really poignant.
Yeah, so she wrote this on her Instagram stories. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? It's right here, and I know this is tiny, so our director Brian can take it full, but it says, as many of you know, Kanye has a bipolar disorder. Anyone who has this or a loved one in their life who does knows how incredibly complicated and painful it is to understand. I've never spoken publicly about how this has affected us at home because I'm protective of our kids and Kanye's right to privacy when it comes to his health. But today, I feel like I should comment on it because of the stigma about mental health. Those that understand mental illness or compulsive behavior know that the family, here's the most important part, the family is powerless unless that person is a minor. People who are unaware or far removed from this experience can be judgmental and not understand that the individual themselves have to engage in the process of getting help no matter how hard family or friends try. And it goes on, but she just talks about, you know, living with bipolar disorder is so difficult, and it's really hard for the family to deal with. And they've been trying to get him help. I pulled up, there's a lot of tweets about he, you know, was very upset that Kim and her mom tried to get a doctor to come and, you know, maybe kind of commit him and really get him help. He's talked openly about not taking medication because it kind of tamps down on his creativity. Whatever you guys think about the Kardashians and Kanye, try and set that aside for the bigger picture of kind of mental health, right, Brenda?
I think we have to set that aside. And sometimes it's hard to switch gears like that because Kim Kardashian has a long history of being insanely frivolous and, you know,
that's a good way to put it.
Social media. And same with Kanye. You know, he can be out there. This is different. If he is having a mental break, and it looks like he is, right? We would never do that to another individual, and mental health is one of those things that is still misunderstood and stigmatized. I have been on Twitter more lately because I've been looking at the Portland protests. So as I look and swipe through and look at what's trending, I saw all the hit the fan with Kanye, and I started looking at how many people were joking about this mental break, this bipolar disorder, how dismissive, how cruel they were. I was furious. And earlier in the week, it's so interesting that you just randomly today said, what about Kim and Kanye? Should we delve into that issue? Because I wanted to talk about it, and I thought, oh, they probably at work won't want to go there, you know, because it has to do with Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. But the bigger picture is huge. And if you know anybody, if you have a family member or a friend who is in an episode or struggles with mental health, especially if it's your relative, you are absolutely powerless. It is the most terrifyingly helpless feeling that you will ever have in your life. And I think that, you know, your heart just has to go out to her as she's looking at her husband, you know, and thinking of her children. It's brutal.
Right. And like she was saying, you know, and it's anyone can write whatever they want, you know, with the anonymity of the internet and being a celebrity, you know, like we normal people feel like we can, you know, weigh in on their lifestyle no matter what because, oh, they have so much and things like that. But it makes it harder because there are so many cameras on him. And then, you know, when you do something as big as literally file to run as a presidential candidate, okay, then that vaults it up to another level where, you know, yeah, the national media is going to show up at these press conferences. And oh my gosh, Brenda, the other day, I know you heard about this, at his first kind of like, was it a campaign rally? I don't know.
I think it was.
He wore like a bulletproof vest and he talked about all kinds of, you know, things not related at all to America or running for president, but he talked about abortion and he disclosed whether it's true or not, we don't know, but saying, you know, even Kim and him considered having an abortion for their first child, saying they weren't quite ready. And, you know, I just can't imagine like thinking, putting myself in her shoes of something so private, if that is, you know, if that happened, and so upsetting and stressful and telling anyone, you know, let alone a bunch of cameras in the world about that issue without, you know, the other partner's permission. So I really feel for her. And if you've ever watched that show, yes, frivolous is the perfect word, Brenda. Well, but people, at the end of every episode, they really do care about each other, and they seem like a very loving family, you know, aside from all of the stuff. And so
people are weighing in. I just want to, read a couple of Julie Wyatt. Good morning to you. She says, it's sad that people can't recognize mental illness as a real illness and something that requires as much understanding and compassion as type 1 diabetes, cancer, or any other illness. We have a couple others. Let me get to those. Connie Miller says, I'm not a fan of either of them, but I have compassion for both. Kim's statement was a perfect balance of love and straight talk. I mean, really, I read it again today, you know, before you just did it on the stream, and I got teary. I really did. That just struck me to my core. It is one of those things, again, for so long, we're just now starting to talk about it, you know, as a society. But for so long, we just, you know, we didn't care, we didn't understand. And it's heartbreaking. I hate it.
She says, yeah, we as a society talk about giving grace to the issue of mental health as a whole. However, we should also give it to the individuals who are living with it in times when they need it most. I kindly ask the media and public, give us the compassion and empathy that is needed so that we can get through this. Thank you for those who have expressed concern for Kanye's well-being and for your understanding.
It is tough because Kanye West has frequently talked about being bipolar. I remember watching one interview that he did that was, TMZ. You know, Real Talk with David Letterman, you know, in his show. He was hospitalized for stress and exhaustion and reportedly placed on a psychiatric hold, you know, back in 2016 when he was on tour. So, you know, it is something. I mean, people who, I'm no expert, but people who are medicated, who choose to go that way, it makes a world of difference for the ones that it works for. I know he said that he doesn't feel as creative, but, you know, people live completely normal, like, lives. It makes them so much more functional. I often think of that when I'm downtown. You know, we've got our studio on the square in Pioneer Courthouse Square, and there's a lot of you know, houseless people, a lot of mentally ill. And I look at some of the ones who are ranting around and have no health care and are just on the street. And I think, what could they be like with some doctor's care, you know, with some health care, with some therapy? You know, there are a variety of things that make life really quality for people who have mental illness. There's a place over in Northeast Portland. It's called North Star. You guys get on the website. It is an amazing place because they don't concentrate on people with mental health issues and what they can't do. They focus on what they can do. And North Star, one of the women who is now or used to be in their administration, had like terrible agoraphobia, so she was afraid to go outside. And thank you for calling that up, because that's awesome. Put it back up there. Let's give them as much press as we can, because they're a really good organization. But she turned her life around with help from North Star. And she said, a lot of times we talk about recovery from drug addiction. This is what she was telling me. We were talking about an interview, and she said, but you can recover. She goes, I feel like I'm in recovery from mental illness with the right support. So that's really, really crucial.
Yeah, a lot of mental health advocates and psychologists really praising Kim, you know, for this heartfelt statement. I mean, she may be mad and super hurt, but it really, you know, came from the heart for a lot of people. And to just boil it, you know, take away the celebrity of it and just, you know, focus on people, because there's a lot of people going through the exact thing and worse than Kanye West is going through. We're also seeing, I've been seeing the headlines with Britney Spears. I mean, she's been kind of, I don't know if she's, you know, diagnosed bipolar, but going through another conservatorship, this time with her mom and her sister coming out and saying, I would never speak about, you know, my sister's mental health. That is, you know, private for her to speak about, and just really kind of protecting her. So it is something that a lot more people are able to talk about, and it's nice that we can have this conversation too, you know, and using those people as an example to kind of bring more light to it.
Yeah, and you know, with Kim speaking out now, sometimes I feel like when you have spent a lifetime or a good chunk of the relationship protecting the person, as well you should, because medical stuff is private, sometimes it just all has to go away and you're like, I have nothing left but to speak a truth, right, about what's going on. And then when you speak that truth, you are just bombarded with love and support, and people going, oh no, I totally get that. You know, you're not alone, which you hate to have to get to the bottom to do that, but sometimes that's what it takes to put a face on it. You know, just like everything, we've been talking about institutional racism with everything that's been happening in our country since the death of George Floyd. And people are saying, hey, we've got to speak out. We've got, each and every person of color needs to say what their truth is. So people go, oh, I guess it's not kind of this theoretical thing. It's happened to Brenda, or it's happened to, you know, anybody that you know. But it's just speaking your truth and talking about your stories. That's how we help people learn.
I like Justin Martian's comment. He says, a great reminder, celebrities are just humans like the rest of us. They have the same struggles, and it's a great reminder that mental illness is real, and as a society, we must embrace mental illness and not just dust it under a rug. Doi Dai says, yes, it's very hard to be in. I've dated maybe a person with mental illness in the past. It takes a strong person to be in a relationship like that. Let's see, who else?
Shania Richardson says, but Oregon is cutting the budget for addiction and mental health services, and we are the third highest in our country for these issues. She says we need more funding for these services and not less. Write letters to Governor Brown about these proposed cuts to a much needed service. Kristen Bailey, good morning to you, says thank you KGW for tackling this very sensitive subject. I'm so glad you decided to talk about it. It's so important for our society to understand how prevalent these mental health issues are. People are really having a hard time with COVID-19 and BLM realities, and it's taking a toll. Yeah, and I would add to that also, like our young people. We've seen like, you know, Gen Xers and Gen Z and millennials, and they're talking about the rate of anxiety and depression among that group, which is just sky high.
So here's a question for you, Brenda. Like, pretend Kanye sends out, pretend you're the news director of, you know, some whatever national news outlet. Kanye sends out, or his people send out a press release saying, hey, he's going to have a presidential, you know, campaign rally or press conference at this time. Do you go and cover it, or do you, because we have these conversations in KGW in our twice a day editorial meetings of like, you know, if someone is going you know someone is going through something, is it, right to be there to see it? Or, do you kind of take that into account and say, we don't want to give more, spotlight to these statements when they may not be kind of in the right place?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. If he was still running and actively, doing whatever, I would send a camera. Mm-hmm. I would also bring that back to the newsroom, and I would get a psychiatrist, psychologist, somebody who is a mental health specialist to take a look at it with me as a news manager and to explain what they see when they're looking. And I would try and give it some context if that was the management decision to run it, not just run it like sometimes you see as people are sharing things like, they're shooting video in the crowd, like in South Carolina when he went off, and they're like, it just opens it up to no context and to ridicule. But I would try and use it, if anything, as a learning and kind of teaching experience. But I wouldn't just run it as, hey, this is what candidate Kanye said today.
Right, on the face of it.
Right.
Yeah, it is very interesting. It's going to be, it'll be doubtful how many organizations do that in the future, if he is able to kind of set his own schedule. But, I hope he gets the help he needs. He's been very forthright. He was on like TMZ Live one time and just kind of walked into their newsroom, is very honest about, getting off of pills and of medication, I should say, prescribed by his doctors, and just the depression and pressures of being, we saw like Dave Chappelle, maybe is one of the best examples of that kind of media pressure being put on certain people, and they just have to, walk away, or they cannot take it. And I can not even imagine that kind of pressure and what it can do to you.
Jennifer Taft says it's so important to be honest and kind about this issue. One reason why the Cahoots in PDX will be so important. And that is one of the programs that Eugene has, where they actually have kind of like a special response team to deal with mental health issues, instead of sending police officers, law enforcement to deal with a mental health crisis. Let's see.
I think that program did they get pushed back till next year? It got delayed till January for HR issues. We need that so much.
What else? Are you seeing other comments? I'm trying to go back a little ways.
Jennifer Taft likes your idea of talking with a therapist with the video.
Yes, Charlene Miller Simmons, good morning to you, says it's a very sad position to be in when you love someone who is bipolar. I think that is probably the most on point segment of that beautiful statement that Kim Kardashian put out. People criticizing her for, why aren't you with your husband? Why can't you do this? Why don't you?
He's an adult. He can control, himself.
Exactly. And I've interviewed parents too that have adult children who struggle with mental health issues, and they end up on the street, or they can't hold down a job because they have an episode and there is no safety net, and they are pulling their hair out. They are devastated. The person that they love the most is right out of their control because nobody wants to talk to you about anything once your kid turns 18. Doesn't mean they're grown. It just means that they're legally of age, and unless they give consent, and if they're not in a mental state to do that, you are left to stand back and watch, which is devastating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, I am proud of Kim. I'm glad she's she's studying to be a lawyer, which is very interesting. She's going to take the bar exam in California, and she's been, a big prison reform advocate.
That's true.
And so, she's bettering herself no matter what you think of her. But yeah, there's a lot of compassion there, and she's just kind of fighting for her family right now with 4 kids and kind of dealing with this in the public eye. So you guys, I don't know if you see any more comments or. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah,
for a
we
Friday.
Have to. I've got to go
Thank
do
you
a
guys
Today
for,
Show cut in, but
chatting with us. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay cool. It's going to be hot out there. We'll see you on Monday.